Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Chandra Manning. I'm the Director of Operations. I have the joy of serving here at Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center. Today, we're talking about hearing loss and the population that is most affected by hearing loss. Joining me today is Dr. Sara Miers. She received her bachelor's degree in communication sciences and disorders from the University of Mississippi, and then went on to receive her doctorate in audiology from the University of Memphis. She has extensive experience in diagnostic and rehabilitative services for individuals with hearing loss. Thank you so much for being with us today to answer our questions that people often ask about hearing loss.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So let's jump right in. We're talking about hearing loss, and this is an area that you are certainly the expert in. Tell me, how prevalent is hearing loss?
So you're going to probably be surprised. Hearing loss is, I think, like the third most common physical condition. It's something that we think of really more in the older population. We assume that it's just something that affects our older population, but we're actually seeing it in more and more individuals of all ages. It is a higher percentage for those individuals who are older, but there's something like 48 million Americans who suffer from some degree of hearing loss. And when we look at that older population, that tells us we're really looking at 1 in 3 people over 60 are likely to have hearing loss.
That's a pretty big number. How do we know when to get our hearing checked?
So that's a great question. Hearing loss is tricky in that it happens over time, slowly, gradually, most times. So we as humans are very adaptive. We get used to hearing as we hear. We don't realize what we're missing. That means that most people with hearing loss don't even really realize it's happening. The research shows us that from the time that someone notices they have a hearing loss to when they actually get their foot in the door to have their hearing checked is about 7 years. And that's when they notice that they have hearing loss. So it's probably even happening much longer before then. And that's way too long to go without addressing your hearing. And I can get into reasons why we don't want to wait to address hearing loss in a little bit. But you were asking me, how do we know when to get our hearing tested? There's a few different indicators. One would be you think that everyone else is mumbling. That's a very common thing that I hear from my patients. It's not me, everyone else mumbles. If everyone is mumbling, it might not be a you problem, or it might not be a them problem, it might be a you problem. So that would be a good indicator. The TV, I can't tell you how many patients' families bring them in because their TV is way too loud. They usually give me a number associated with that. It always makes me laugh. So if someone's coming in and saying, gosh, your TV is so loud, that's probably a good indicator to get your hearing tested. If you're struggling in social events and struggling to keep up with conversations with more than one person in some background noise, if you end up just kind of giving up in conversations and just pulling back because you can't keep up, that's a really good indicator, a really, really good reason why you need to come in and have your hearing checked. And then really, if your loved ones are telling you, I know a lot of times we kind of joke about going deaf or you need hearing aids because we do associate it with something that's for the older population. But I think sometimes that's our family's way of addressing a sensitive subject, is kind of making light of it, but they're caring enough to bring it to your attention. And if they care enough to do that, you need to care enough to get your hearing checked. Especially because our hearing loss doesn't just affect us. It affects your communication partners, your families, your loved ones. So that would be a really good indicator if the people around you are telling you need to have your hearing tested.
You're absolutely right on that. You just indicated, though, that there might be some key reasons to get your hearing checked sooner than later. Can you share more about that?
Absolutely. I would love to. I can't tell you the amount of times I've had a patient sit across from me and say, I've got this friend who is deaf and I am nowhere near as bad as them. If only that person realized what all is affected by their hearing. To me, any hearing loss is significant, whether or not it's a profound hearing loss or a mild hearing loss. Our bodies are systemic. So everything has the ability to change the way that something else works. For example, smokers are 70% more likely to have hearing loss. And even mild chronic kidney disease, you're, I think, like 43% more likely to have hearing loss. And then if you have untreated hearing loss, your risk for falling, it increases threefold. You're more likely to have, you're more at risk for depression, you're more at risk for dementia, and your risk for Alzheimer's is 5 times higher. So that right there, to me, any of those is a reason that you need to address your hearing loss, because we're not just talking about our ears. It's about our brain. It's about our brain health. Our ears submit signals to our brain for it to function properly. Without those signals, the brain starts doing things that we don't want it to, and leading to other health issues, especially when we can't hear well, and our brain is constantly trying to keep up and fill in the gaps and figure out what did that person say. That's really fatiguing. So there's so many reasons why we don't want to put it off.
Yeah, yeah. Being in the field myself, with you, this isn't really news to me, but I agree it's something that most people don't consider when they're thinking about their hearing loss. And you've given our followers a lot to think about. I know that when we know now when to get our hearing checked and why it's so important. So let's talk about treatment options. What kind of treatment options are available for people that have hearing loss?
So the treatment option depends on a few different things. It's going to depend on our degree of hearing loss, the type of hearing loss, what's caused it, other symptoms, patient's health history. There's a lot of factors that go into it. It's not a one size fits all thing. In some cases, it's simply counseling and adjusting patients' lifestyle, or even cleaning their ear. But in most cases, we're looking at hearing aids. And the way that I look at hearing aids is no different from me looking at eyeglasses or a pacemaker. It's something to treat a problem. Hearing aids are medical devices, and they're part of our healthy hearing treatment plan.
Okay, yeah. But Dr. Miers, hearing aids are expensive, or at least that's something that I hear people say often.
Right. This is probably one of the biggest parts of my job, is talking about the finances of it. And it's hard because hearing aids, yes, they can be expensive, but they aren't always. Insurance carriers, thankfully, are starting to recognize that they are so important for healthy hearing, and they're offering discount programs, things like that, to help offset the cost. And then, but it is my job, and this is what I always tell patients: I've got to help you hear while not making it a financial burden, because that's something to consider. So thankfully, at a place like the Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center, our mission is to help people in the best way that we can. So if I have a patient who can't afford hearing aids, well, then we're going to figure out how do we help you. So we are here to serve our public and to serve families and patients who are struggling with communication. Communication is a basic human need and a right. And so we're here to help people communicate better, to stay engaged in life, and to live their best life possible.
All right, that is most definitely true. I couldn't agree more with you. The services that we provide to the community, that you provide to the community, are invaluable. And I am also fortunate to play a small role in that. Is there anything else you would like to share with our followers today?
Yes, having hearing loss does not mean that you are old and broken, but it is something that we have to address. If anything, just so that we're living better lives. Audiologists like myself care about you and helping you stay engaged in life. I encourage anyone at any age to get a hearing test so that we have a baseline, honestly, to compare it to. And so in the future, we can monitor. And the good news is that hearing tests are covered by nearly every insurance carrier out there. And we at the Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center are now even offering a contactless system. So there's no reason to not come in and have your hearing tested.
Dr. Miers, I enjoy the opportunity to chat with you about healthy hearing so often, and I'm excited that you've made yourself available today to share this information with others. Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions and increase our knowledge about hearing health.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
For more information about hearing loss and the services that we provide at Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center, please visit our website. It's www.shc.org. or call the office to schedule an appointment. Our number is 904-355-3403. Thank you very much. You all have a great day.